The fields outside Holtzwihr are frozen solid. Flat farmland stretches west from the village, broken by irrigation ditches and low ground that offer almost no cover. Snow sits in thin patches across the open earth. The tree line of the Riedwehr woods stands behind the American position like a wall. In front of it, there is nothing but open ground and cold air and smoke. First Lieutenant Audie Murphy stands at the forward edge of that tree line. He commands Company B, 15th Infantry Regiment, 3rd Infantry Division. Or what is left of it. Hours of artillery exchanges and earlier German probing attacks have already torn the company apart. The men who remain are scattered across a thin defensive line, their numbers reduced to a fraction of a full fighting strength. Squads that should number a dozen men are down to 3 or 4. There are gaps in the line that cannot be filled. Several M10 tank destroyers from the 601st Tank Destroyer Battalion sit in the open ground ahead of Murphy's position. Their high-velocity guns are the most significant direct-fire capability the Americans have left in this sector. The vehicles are exposed. The terrain offers them no cover either. Across the frozen fields, through the drifting smoke from earlier artillery strikes, something moves. German infantry formations are forming up and advancing again. Murphy sees them. This is the moment the morning has been building toward, and there is no reserve to call forward, no reinforced line to fall back on, no armored column waiting around a bend. There is a depleted company, a handful of tank destroyers, a field telephone connected to artillery batteries miles away, and flat open ground that favors whoever can put the most fire across it. The German advance is already in motion. The window to stop it is already shrinking. To understand what Murphy is holding, and what he is holding it against, you have to understand what Holtzwihr means in January 1945. The Colmar Pocket is the last major German-held territory west of the Rhine in Alsace. German forces have maintained this bridgehead through the winter, and Allied command has been systematically compressing it from multiple directions. The 3rd Infantry Division forms part of that pressure. Their advance through the Alsatian farmland has been grinding and costly, village by village, woodline by woodline, across terrain that funnels attacking forces into predictable corridors and rewards defenders who know the ground. The villages of Riedwehr and Holtzwihr sit along one of those corridors. The roads here control movement through the farmland. The Riedwehr Woods anchors the eastern edge of the American line in this sector. If German forces can push American infantry back through that woodline, they open a gap that threatens adjacent units and complicates the broader Allied compression of the pocket. American command has assessed that German forces in this immediate area are too fragmented to mount a serious counterattack. The pocket is collapsing. German coordination is assumed to be degraded. The morning's fighting has been severe, but the expectation is that German momentum here is spent. That assessment is wrong. Inside the pocket, German commanders have not stopped planning. They are running out of options and they know it. Localized counterattacks are one of the few tools they have left. If they can destabilize the American line at points like Holtzwihr, they can slow the Allied advance, buy time, and complicate the timetable for eliminating the pocket entirely. Their assault force this afternoon includes infantry elements from the 198th Infantry Division moving with armored support. The armored component gives them the capability to disable the American tank destroyers. Without the M10S, Murphy's infantry cannot hold the open ground. The German artillery begins adjusting at approximately 1400 hours. Shells land across the American positions. Not random fire. Targeted probing. Walking rounds towards suspected vehicle positions and observation points. The ground shakes with each impact. Soil and ice spray across the frozen fields. The rhythm of the shelling is not accidental. It is preparatory fire. Someone on the German side is clearing the way for infantry movement. Murphy's men hold their positions. The tank destroyers hold theirs. For a brief period, the defensive arrangement seems capable of absorbing the pressure. The M10 guns can answer the German advance. The artillery linked to the rear batteries provides additional reach. Murphy has observation, communication, and direct fire support. The balance appears thin but functional. Then the German armored element enters the field. 15 hours. German anti-armor fire begins engaging the M10 tank destroyers directly. The flat terrain that hampers the American infantry works just as effectively here. The tank destroyers have nowhere to maneuver. They are firing from static positions on open ground, weak, and the incoming fire is accurate. The first M10 is hit. It erupts. Flames climb through the vehicle's fighting compartment and spread across the hull. Black smoke boils upward into the pale winter sky. The burning tank destroyer sits in the open field between the American line and the advancing German infantry. It marks the ground like a signal fire. A second vehicle takes damage and withdraws. Its crew pulls back under fire, the vehicle no longer capable of sustained combat. The American armored support that was stabilizing the defensive line is gone or crippled within minutes. Murphy is watching this happen from the forward edge of the woods. He is on the field telephone. He is calling adjustments to the artillery batteries. The rear batteries can still fire. The guns are still available. But they need his eyes and his corrections to hit anything useful, and the German infantry is still moving forward. At 14:20 hours, Murphy makes the decision. He orders the remaining soldiers of Company B to withdraw into the Riedwehr woods. Their numbers are too small to hold exposed farmland against a combined infantry and armored assault. They will establish a secondary defensive position inside the tree line. Cover, concealment, a chance to reorganize. The men begin pulling back. Murphy does not go with them. He remains in the forward position with the field telephone. If he withdraws now, artillery coordination stops. Without his corrections, the rear batteries are firing blind across a battlefield that changes position every few minutes. German infantry will close the distance faster than any unsupported artillery can track. Murphy stays. The burning M10 tank destroyer sits approximately 50 meters in front of him. It is still burning. The fire has not reached the ammunition storage. The machine gun mounted on its hull is still operational. The weapon is a .50 caliber M2. Heavy barrel, high rate of fire, capable of sustained suppressive fire across several hundred meters of open ground. Murphy moves toward the burning vehicle. He climbs onto it. The heat from the fire below the hull is immediate and intense. The vehicle's metal surfaces radiate it directly. The fire is working through the wreckage from below, consuming fuel and hydraulic lines and everything that burns inside an armored vehicle. The entire platform could detonate without warning. Murphy gets behind the machine gun. He begins firing. The .50 caliber opens up across the frozen fields, and the German infantry advance stops moving forward for a moment. They take cover. They go to ground in the irrigation ditches and behind the low rises in the terrain. Suppressive fire of this weight, accurate and sustained from a fixed position, forces infantry to choose between moving and surviving. Murphy keeps firing. Between bursts, he reaches for the field telephone. He is calling artillery adjustments. He is looking across the same ground he is suppressing with the machine gun, identifying where the German infantry elements are concentrating, and directing the rear batteries to put shells on those coordinates. Artillery impacts walk across the open farmland. Columns of frozen earth and smoke rise from the fields. It is 14:25 hours. In the woods behind him, the surviving soldiers of Company B are pulling back through the trees. They are reduced. They are scattered. They are the remnant of a company that started the day already under strength and has been fighting through a morning of artillery and contact. They are the only force that can counterattack. But they need time. Murphy is buying it in machine gun ammunition and artillery corrections. The engagement is now a race between two clocks running simultaneously. The first clock is German. Their infantry is slowed but not stopped. They are taking casualties. They are adjusting their approach, spreading out, using the terrain features, pushing elements around the flanks of the fire. They have numbers, and they have armored support, and they know the American defensive line has already partially collapsed. They need to close the remaining ground before the Americans reorganize. The second clock is American. It is running faster. The .50 caliber ammunition belts on the burning M10 are finite. There is no resupply. The vehicle is not a logistics point. It is wreckage. Whatever ammunition is mounted on that gun is everything Murphy has for direct fire. Every burst he fires shortens the window. Every minute he spends on the burning vehicle is a minute the clock runs down. Underneath him, the fire continues working through the tank destroyer. The heat increases. Murphy keeps firing. 14:30 hours. The German infantry attempt a coordinated push along the left edge of the field, using a drainage ditch as a covered approach. They move in short rushes, section by section, using the earthwork to break the line of fire from the burning M10. Murphy adjusts his fire. He tracks the movement along the ditch and brings the heavy machine gun around. The .50 caliber fires at a rate that puts rounds into a narrow arc in a matter of seconds. The advance into the ditch slows. He calls the artillery. Corrections go back through the telephone. Rear batteries shift. Shells begin landing along the axis of the drainage ditch. The infantry using it for cover are now underneath incoming artillery. The push into the ditch stops. But the clock is still running. A radio operator or telephone lineman moving a few meters in the wrong direction. A round landing on the wrong patch of ground. Any break in that wire connection to the rear batteries, and the artillery goes dark. Murphy loses his long-range reach. The machine gun alone cannot hold the field. Artillery alone without his corrections cannot hit precise enough targets. The combination is what is making the defense work. Both have to hold simultaneously. 14:35 hours. A German element approaches from the right side of the field, attempting to work around the far end of the burning vehicle's effective fire arc. They are approximately 200 meters out and moving in a low crouch, using a slight ground rise as cover. Murphy cannot see them clearly through the smoke from the burning vehicle. The artillery adjustments he calls are based on what he can observe from the elevated position on the M10's hull. The smoke is thickening. The burning wreck beneath him is producing more of it as the fire works deeper into the vehicle's frame. Visibility is degrading. He adjusts the gun. He fires into the most likely axis of approach. The German element on the right slows. 14:40 hours. In the woods, the survivors of Company B have begun to regroup. The withdrawal order has brought scattered squads back together. Officers and NCOs are organizing what remains of the fighting strength into a defensible formation. They are moving inside the tree line, using the cover. They are not ready yet. They need more time. Murphy has been on the burning vehicle for approximately 15 minutes. The ammunition situation is becoming critical. He has been firing in sustained bursts, not in short-controlled salvos. The demands of suppressive fire against a spread infantry advance require volume. Single shots do not stop infantry spread across 300 meters of open farmland. You need sustained fire, wide arcs, repeated suppression of multiple approach corridors simultaneously. The belts are running down. Murphy continues calling artillery adjustments between firing sequences. The rear batteries are still answering. The wire is still intact. But each correction he calls requires him to lift his eye from the gun, scan the field, identify new targets, and speak into the telephone. In those gaps, the German advance pushes forward. 14:45 hours. German infantry have been on the field for close to 30 minutes. They have taken artillery fire continuously. They have been suppressed by the .50 caliber. Sections of their advance have been stopped and forced to regroup multiple times. Their casualty count from the artillery alone is significant, but they have not broken. They are still coming. The distance between the forward German elements and the tree line is now under 300 meters. Murphy is still on the burning tank destroyer. The heat from below the hull is severe enough that standing on the vehicle is a physical endurance challenge separate from the combat itself. The metal is hot. The fire below it is burning through the tank destroyer's internal structure. Every minute on the vehicle is a minute the platform becomes less stable. A burning armored vehicle is not a predictable object. Fuel tanks do not follow a schedule. Stored ammunition does not announce itself. The vehicle can detonate without warning and without giving the man standing on top of it time to do anything at all. Murphy is still firing. He is still calling corrections. At approximately 1450 hours, the telephone connection becomes intermittent. Incoming fire has landed somewhere along the wire route. The line is damaged but not completely severed. Corrections are getting through, but transmission is becoming unreliable. Murphy has to repeat adjustments. The lag between his call and the artillery response increases by seconds that matter when infantry are closing distance. A marginal phone line is not an abstract problem. It is the difference between shells landing on advancing German infantry and shells landing on empty ground while that infantry moves forward unopposed. Murphy holds the line. He keeps firing. The rear batteries keep responding. The wire holds. 1455 hours. The ammunition belts on the .50 caliber are nearly gone. This is the irreversible moment. Murphy has been holding the field with two tools: machine gun fire and artillery coordination. One of those tools is about to stop working. The machine gun will go silent. The direct fire suppression that has been forcing German infantry to take cover, to spread out, to slow their advance, to absorb casualties in the open, that suppression ends the moment the last belt runs through the gun. Artillery alone cannot replace it. Artillery fires in salvos on fixed coordinates. It cannot track infantry moving in short rushes across shifting positions the way a machine gun on an elevated platform can. When the .50 caliber goes silent, the German infantry will know it immediately. They will begin moving faster. They will close the remaining ground before the artillery can adjust. Murphy understands this. He has understood it for the last 10 minutes. He has been rationing the remaining ammunition, trying to make the belts last long enough. But there is no way to slow the arithmetic. The gun fires, the belt shortens, the window closes. Inside the woods, Company B is still organizing. They are not ready to counterattack. They need more minutes. Murphy keeps firing. The field telephone rings with a transmission from the rear battery. They are asking for confirmation of the last adjustment. Murphy answers. He confirms. Artillery rounds land across the advancing German formation again. The lead elements, already reduced by sustained fire, slow once more. But the distance is under 250 meters now. 1458 hours. The last belt feeds through the .50 caliber machine gun. The weapon fires its final rounds across the frozen field, suppressing a German section attempting to advance along the left approach route. Then it stops. The gun is empty. Murphy is standing on a burning tank destroyer with no ammunition, with a field telephone to artillery batteries that are now firing without direct observation, on a battlefield where German infantry are within 200 meters of the tree line. He climbs down from the burning vehicle. He moves toward the woods with the telephone still in hand. The burning M10 continues to burn behind him as he withdraws. It does not detonate. Murphy reaches the tree line and rejoins what remains of Company B. The men have reorganized. They are in covered positions. They have weapons. They have fields of fire into the open ground in front of them. They have been given time, purchased in machine gun belts and artillery corrections, to do what a depleted infantry company can do when it has cover and organization. They can fight from the woods. Murphy takes the telephone with him. He continues calling artillery adjustments from inside the tree line. The wire is still functional, though the rear batteries are still answering. The German infantry, advancing with increasing confidence after the machine gun went silent, push forward across the last stretch of open ground. They are moving toward a tree line they believe is abandoned or broken. It is neither. American infantry open fire from concealed positions. The German advance, already slowed and reduced by 45 minutes of sustained artillery and machine gun fire, runs directly into a reformed defensive line in the woods. The combination stops them. Artillery continues landing on the open ground behind the lead German elements, cutting off easy withdrawal and adding to the weight of fire coming from the tree line. The German assault force, which entered the field expecting to exploit a collapsing American position, which is now caught between incoming artillery and infantry fire from concealed positions. They begin pulling back. By approximately 15:30 hours, the German counterattack has collapsed. The open ground between the tree line and the village of Holzwehr is littered with the evidence of the engagement. Burning wreckage. Cratered frozen earth from artillery impacts. The M10 tank destroyer still burning in the middle distance. The American defensive line at the Riedwehr Woods holds. The breakthrough does not happen. Now examine what Murphy actually did and what the record confirms. The Medal of Honor citation for Audie Murphy, awarded for the action at Holzwehr on January 26, 1945, documents the engagement in specific terms. Murphy held off a German attack while simultaneously operating the .50 caliber machine gun and directing artillery fire. The citation describes German forces as including infantry and tank or assault gun support. It credits Murphy with inflicting heavy casualties on the advancing force and preventing the German assault from succeeding. That is the documented record. What the record does not support is the version of events that has accumulated around Murphy's name over the decades since the war. The claim that Murphy single-handedly destroyed an entire German company, that he personally killed hundreds of enemy soldiers, that he stood alone against an overwhelming force and defeated it through individual combat. These versions of the story have grown beyond what the official documentation describes. The distinction matters. What Murphy did was this. He stayed on a burning vehicle under fire when his men withdrew, and he operated a heavy machine gun to suppress an advancing enemy formation. He maintained artillery coordination through a fragile telephone line for approximately an hour, and he then rejoined his reorganized soldiers and helped them execute a counterattack that stopped the German advance. That is a documented action. It is also enough. The significance of what happened at Holzwehr does not require exaggeration. Murphy's decision to remain in the forward position while Company B withdrew was not a consequence of desperation or recklessness. It was a calculated choice to maintain the one capability, artillery observation and coordination, that could slow a superior force long enough for surviving infantry to regroup. The burning tank destroyer with its mounted .50 caliber gave him a direct fire option he could combine with artillery control simultaneously. The decision to climb onto that vehicle was the decision that saved the position. Not because it was heroic in a dramatic sense, though it was that as well, but because it was operationally correct. The burning platform was the only elevated position with a working direct fire weapon and a communication line to the rear. Murphy recognized what the situation required, and he put himself on the instrument that could deliver it. Every constraint in the engagement narrowed back to the same point. The tank destroyers went down. The infantry withdrew. The communications were degraded. The ammunition was finite. The platform was burning. Each of those constraints removed one option from the board. And each time an option was removed, the defense became more dependent on the options that remained. By the time the last ammunition belt was nearly empty, the entire American defensive capability in that sector of the field had compressed down to one man, one gun, one wire, and whatever time was left before the belt ran out. Murphy held all of those simultaneously until the infantry in the woods were ready. That is what the record shows. In the weeks following the engagement at Holzwehr, the broader Allied campaign to eliminate the Colmar pocket continues under sustained pressure from multiple directions. French and American forces converge on the pocket from north and south. The German position west of the Rhine, maintained through the winter at severe cost, becomes untenable under the accumulated weight of the Allied advance. Logistics lines are cut. Reinforcement becomes impossible. German units that have been fighting through Alsace since autumn are worn down to fractions of their original strength. By early February 1945, German forces begin withdrawing across the Rhine. The Colmar pocket is eliminated. The Allied advance pushes toward the Rhine itself, and within weeks the river-crossing operations that will carry Allied forces into the German heartland are underway. The engagement at Holzwehr is a single data point in that larger collapse. One afternoon, one defensive position, one officer holding a burning vehicle against an advancing formation. The battle did not change the strategic trajectory of the war in Europe. The Colmar pocket was going to collapse regardless. German forces west of the Rhine were going to be pushed back across the river. The Allied advance into Germany was not contingent on what happened in those frozen fields outside Holzwehr on January 26th. But that is not the correct frame for measuring what Murphy did. The correct frame is operational and immediate. On that afternoon, in that sector, a German counterattack aimed at retaking Holzwehr and destabilizing the American line had a realistic chance of succeeding. Company B was reduced. The tank destroyers were disabled. The infantry withdrew. The open ground between the German advance and the American position was being crossed at walking pace by a force that outnumbered the defenders many times over. Without the delay Murphy imposed from the burning M10, the German infantry closed the remaining distance before Company B can regroup. They reach the tree line before the American defense reforms. The hinge between advancing American units and the open terrain breaks. The consequences of that breakthrough, in terms of disrupted American units, lost ground, and the time required to restore the line, would have been local, but real. Murphy prevented it. Not by destroying the attacking force, but by slowing it precisely long enough. The distinction between those two outcomes, destruction and delay, is the distinction between the myth and the record. The myth requires Murphy to have won the battle single-handedly by inflicting catastrophic casualties. The record requires only that he delayed the advance long enough for the defense to reconstitute itself. The record is sufficient. The instrument Murphy used was exhaustible from the moment he climbed onto the vehicle. The ammunition was finite. The platform was burning. The telephone wire was vulnerable to incoming fire. The time available was determined entirely by how fast those three elements degraded. Murphy knew this. He operated within those limits precisely. When the last belt ran through the gun, he climbed down from the vehicle. He did not stay on the burning platform after the weapon was empty. He withdrew with the telephone to the tree line and continued the one function he could still perform: artillery coordination from inside the woods. He did not stay past the point of usefulness. That is also documented. That discipline, using the available resources to their limit and not beyond it, is as significant as the act of climbing onto the vehicle in the first place. The action at Holzwehr did not succeed because Murphy was willing to die on a burning tank destroyer. It succeeded because he was willing to stay on a burning tank destroyer precisely as long as the machine gun had ammunition and the wire had connection, and then withdraw and reconstitute the defense with what remained. The German assault collapses not because one man destroyed it, but because the delay he imposed was precise enough to allow the surviving American infantry to regroup and counterattack. That is what the burning vehicle and the empty ammunition belts and the cracking telephone line produced. A delay measured in minutes that was long enough. The cost of the engagement at Holzwehr, in terms of American casualties across Company B, and the 601st Tank Destroyer Battalion reflects hours of fighting that preceded Murphy's stand as well as the engagement itself. The precise casualty figures for the specific afternoon action are incorporated into the broader regimental records of the day's fighting. What is documented is the outcome. The German counterattack failed. The American line held. Holtzwihr remained in American hands. The Colmar pocket continued to collapse under Allied pressure in the following weeks. And on the ground outside Holtzwihr, a burned-out M10 tank destroyer sat in the frozen field where it had burned all afternoon, its .50 caliber machine gun empty, its ammunition gone, the wire to the artillery batteries still running back through the cratered ground toward the rear. Murphy received the Medal of Honor for the engagement. He was 20 years old. The citation confirmed what the battlefield record showed. One officer, one weapon, one wire, often holding a narrowing position until the defense could restore itself. The title appended to this engagement over the years, the legend of the soldier who wiped out an entire company alone, belongs to the myth. What Murphy did at Holtzwihr was simpler and harder than that. He held a burning platform until the ammunition ran out. He held it long enough,